Well, welcome to Are You Man Enough? We have been waiting for this episode for a bit now. We have our good friend Joe Carabase from Jupiter, Florida, originally from Connecticut. And this is an amazing gentleman that we got a chance to meet on another platform, which has taken the world by storm. And, Joe, first of all, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, man. I'm pumped to be here.
Well, we are pumped to have you. And for those of you who know a little bit about Joe already, Joe is a personal trainer, certified personal trainer of 16 years. And, one of the things I love about Joe is he works with all types of athletes. And, just his contributions, he is known for building ideal bodies and really living a life that you are excited about. And he's done that through his own modality. And, just a quick bio, is a yoga instructor. He's an author and a speaker. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is his episodes up and coming on his podcast of Man Over Mind. Did I say that correctly?
You got it.
Oh, hot diggity. And this gentleman I've never met live, but we have gotten a chance to build a great bond through just talking and speaking and interacting through Zoom. And I'm just so impressed with this gentleman because his daughter, I just found out, is only 3.5 months old. That is insane. Maeve, and I'm sure she's just a gem. You still find time to be a dad. You still find time to pour into others. And let's just talk about the man behind the mic, and that would be Joe Carabase. So you ready to get this thing started?
Dude, I would love it. Appreciate the introduction. Pumped to be here. Let's do this.
Very cool. Well, I want to start with you, and I'd love for you to give a little history about really your background and where you came from, going through high school, what sports you were involved in, what challenges you faced. And, really, I know that we've asked that question as gentlemen. Are you man enough? We sometimes find ourselves feeling inadequate. And, we're wondering and asking that question throughout our manhood. And especially when we get into, sports competitively, we go into college and then we find our profession. So let's talk a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up? Did you play sports? How did that affect you and impact you?
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for being here, Matt. You are an absolute stud, my man. I really appreciate connecting through Clubhouse and just seeing all your contribution all over that platform has been inspiring. So thank you for that and all that you're doing for people. My background, it started, well, I guess, I know you asked about high school, but it really started as a kid. As a young kid, I was bullied. Often called things like retarded and stupid, and to a point where, when you're called something so often, you start to believe it. And as a result, I got very nervous in social situations, raising my hand. I developed a speech impediment. I was in speech class, for which, by the way, I actually love speech class. I'll never forget Miss Beveridge. Shout out to you. You made it awesome. Scratchy sniff stickers that smell. One of the best things you can do for a kid. But nonetheless, I struggled with confidence because of that bullying. And that really transferred all, in middle school, I acted out because I had a lot of anger I didn't know what to do with. Finally, because, I'm 34 now. I just turned 34. Youth fitness wasn't what it was now back then. And so my mom always said, you can't work out till you're going into high school. It's going to stunt your growth, blah, blah, blah. And there was no youth fitness program. So I was chomping at the bit to get into the weight room. Going into freshman year of high school, the first day we went in there and that's where my life really started to change. For the first time, something started to come naturally that I understood. School, I really struggled with. I worked really hard, but it just didn't come easy. But finally, I was able just to naturally understand movement, how to instruct others. I started leading the group, leading abs at the end. And then one thing led to another. My first books I've read, the first book I read, I know you read this one, Matt. We haven't even talked about it, but Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Modern Day Bodybuilding. Dude, I mean that's if you've read that book, it's how many pages?
Amazing, but it's let's put it this way, it's an encyclopedia.
Legitimately. And if you haven't read it, you should check it out because it still stands. But nonetheless, that I just started researching, reading, and all that good stuff. And so in high school, I played football, lacrosse. I was a captain for both, and football was probably my main sport. I was getting recruited for some Division II schools. I had a really good offer for Division II school. I wasn't sure I wanted to go there, but I ended up tearing my second ACL in my third game of my senior year in lacrosse. And that kind of made a decision for me because I wasn't going to sit out at a school I didn't want to be at. And so I ended up going to University of Amherst, and I ended up tearing my third ACL, recovering in rehab for my second one. And through that process, I fell in love with how a muscle can completely atrophy, but then you can grow it back. You can build range of motion. You can, and I know, Matt, you've had some knee injuries as well. I think you see that muscle go to nothing, and then you can see it grow back. And it was just an amazing thing. And I was sitting in a dorm room with my roommate my freshman year, and he had said, and this is 2005 or 6, and at the time, fitness wasn't what it is now. Now everybody's a coach. But back then, he's like, we were talking about bullshit jobs we can do. We were like, we want to do something fun. We don't want to really work. We're in college. And he's like, hey, we should get certified as trainers. And I'm like, wait, what? You can do that? Like, I thought you had to have a degree. I thought you had to go to licensing. And in hindsight, you probably should have to do all those things. But nonetheless, as it was then and it is now, you can get certified online within 2 hours. And that's what I did, quite literally. And as soon as I got that certification, I worked all throughout campus. I worked all throughout the gold gyms throughout Connecticut, which is where I'm originally from. And I just fell in love. Did all throughout college. I noticed training professors, training students, training athletes at school, training myself, that I started to develop a 30-minute method. And I realized that, man, people can benefit from half the time, and it doesn't matter who you are. So going into my senior year, I was at this internship in the summer, and it was at a screw company, Fastenal, which, to be honest, I don't even know what the fuck a Fastenal is. Can I swear in this? I'm sorry. I should have probably asked that first.
Go ahead.
Yeah, oops. Air muffs, reverse air muffs. But I don't even know what a Fastenal, honestly. Like, I had no business being there. It was a sales internship. I learned what I could, but I really had this idea for a book in my head. And so I was doing, the cardio cinemas where they're elevated and there's big movies. There was a movie on there, Fool's Gold, and it was Matthew McConaughey. It's like a romance, whatever, but it didn't matter. It took place in Florida. There was palm trees. I was sitting here. It was a rainy day in Connecticut. All I could think about was writing my book and fitness. And I'm like, you know what? I have a friend down in Tampa. He invited me already. I'm like, I'm going to go move down there for the rest of the summer, sleep on his couch, get a job waiting, and write the damn book. And that's what I did. And the book was called How to Look Better Naked. Nothing ended up happening from it. There was no publishers knocking down my door miraculously, which I didn't know what I was thinking. But nonetheless, it gave me the confidence putting all my knowledge on paper. And what ended up happening was senior year, as I was graduating, I had offered a corporate job, and I had that internship for the corporate job. And every time I went in there, I just felt incomplete. I felt bored. I just didn't want to be there. And so I turned that offer down, and I started my business from there. And so, that was over 11 years ago. And since then, I created a brand called MELT. It's an acronym for More Energy, Less Time. I recently sold my last studio, but at one point I had 4 gyms in Connecticut, and I worked with Men's Health, worked with Beachbody, done DVDs, done 50 plus TV appearances, written a few books. And in 2017, my wife and I moved down to Florida. It was just a lifestyle decision. And I wasn't planning on opening a gym, but I missed the community. And so I created another brand called In30 Fit, and I still have a gym down here. And now I have this podcast, Man Over Mind, which helps you overcome the one issue that's really in your way, which is the mindset to live the life that you want to. So that's in a nutshell, man. There's a ton of challenges within, but I don't know what direction you want to go in. But yeah, man, it's been a journey. And yeah, there's a shot of the gym in Florida.
I love it.
Yeah, that was before social distancing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was. And that was, I would like for you to talk about your gym, because you started with a dream, and now where does it sit, with COVID, and really what is the progression? Because Florida, I'll give you a great example. Today marks a very landmark day for Texas. The mask mandate has been lifted. We're getting into our new normal and trying to get back to as normal as possible. So talk about how really your gym grew with the idea and you put it into action.
Yeah, man. Well, I guess so that first gym, when I had graduated college, and I mentor a lot of college students now, and I have done a lot of speaking at colleges to entrepreneurs. And one of the questions people always ask is, how do you get started? And we have this idea that everything should be instantaneous because, well, social media, internet, that's what leads us to believe. But it was a process. I knew I wanted to start my fitness business, but the first year after I graduated, I did everything I could. And I received really good advice from somebody as I was graduating. And he said, look, man, he's like, I know you don't know exactly what you want to do. You want to be in fitness. The one advice I could give you is stay as close to it as possible. Doesn't matter if you're washing the floors and the toilets, doesn't matter. Just if it's at a gym, it's what you want to be in fitness, do that. And that's exactly what I did. I was training. I was working front desk. I was doing in-home training throughout Connecticut. Literally, I would drive 45 minutes to do a 30-minute session. I was teaching personal training. And then about 9 months later, I opened my first facility. And as I signed the lease, I knew I needed to come up with a name for the business. And so I started the journal, as I've been doing for a number of years. And I just tried to think of a philosophy that I liked, that spoke, that could be marketable. Came up with MELT, more energy, less time, 30-minute workouts, get better results in less time, burn more energy in less time. And that's what we did. And so I think your original question is like, how did you go about starting that? And really it was just a series of stepping stones. And I think when you do anything, you've got to, oftentimes we always have more ability than we give ourselves credit for. I recently saw an image on Instagram, and there was a small circle that said how we see ourselves. And then there was a big circle that said how others see us. And I think that's really true for all of us. We have way more potential in us than we can actually ever articulate or be able to admit to. However, you got to go through what you need to go through so you can best express it. And that's what I did that first year. I literally trained anybody who would have me, and finally signed that lease for that first studio. And, what's amazing about when you sign a lease, there's no turning back. Your name's on a paper. You're in for it. I had no money. I had a credit card, limited equipment, started small, and, it just grew one thing after another. But it started with just those small initial steps and staying close to what I wanted to do.
I love it. And you know what? Most people have the idea to build a business or grow a business or even start, for that matter. And so if you take 100 people that say they want to start a business, really, truly, you're probably talking about a handful of people who actually do it, and then a handful of those people who actually go through with it and succeed in a sustainable long-term way. And you have chosen to do that in a state that you're not originally from. You moved down, you made the decision with your wife, newborn family. And this brings me to my next question, which I absolutely want to dig in, because if you'll see, the podcast is something that I'm highly curious and intrigued about. And I love this graphic, because a lot of people say mind over matter, but this is your home base, my friend. This is man over mind. Talk to us about what this entails and really how this came about.
Yeah, man. Well, this was a journey in and of itself. And so I, as someone who struggled with confidence, and if you're someone who does have confidence issues, you might relate to this, is it's very typical for us to find sort of fragile sense of confidence through other means. And generally that's external validation we find through getting attention for various things, whether we stand out for getting in trouble, whether it's being the outgoing person, whether it's females or whatever your choice of the opposite sex is. We seek external validation, desires, essentially. And I chased a lot of that to make myself feel good. And what I found was that I was always chasing. And I developed this, because I'm type A, as you could probably tell, but I developed this perfectionist sort of persona. And I didn't know at the time, but essentially anything that didn't happen exactly as I thought it should, and that was just according to my own mind, it wasn't right. I self-judged myself. I self-shamed myself. And for the longest time, I really didn't know what was happening. And then, finally I started to fall into, and it really, I guess when I took my 200-hour yoga certification, it really led me down the pipeline of some old school philosophy from like ancient texts. And it really just, what I find in life is that you get, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. You ever hear that quote?
Yes.
I really believe that to be true when you're open. And I just started getting these resources and these conversations and these people I started to attract, and it started to really open up a lot for me. And I realized more and more about myself and my own journey, and that I didn't need to chase anything. I always heard the cliche, look within, right? But I never really understood what it meant. And I think as us men, especially alpha men who are the athletes, who are big and work out, it's hard for us to admit that we have feelings and that things are wrong. And I saw that this was a big issue for me. And I knew a lot of other men had that. And so when I developed the Man Over Mind podcast, it was really to share my own struggle, and ongoing, by the way. We're all work in progresses, in action, in motion. And so every week I share very, up to date with what's going on, what I've learned, what I'm going through, to help inspire others to say, hey man, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to have feelings, because guess what? Those feelings you have, those thoughts ain't going to disappear. They're going to be repressed. And it's one thing we learned from 2020 is this: we're just always one external event away from rocking your ship completely. And look, depression, suicide, alcoholism, divorce, these things have all skyrocketed over this past year when we've faced this epic pandemic, worldwide pandemic. And it's because a lot of people were living this fragile sense of self where they really didn't know themselves. They weren't facing their issues. And then all of a sudden we have this gnarly epidemic hit us all and didn't really know what to do with it. And so my hope is to inspire as many men as possible to handle their demons, to face them, and realize there's nothing to be scared of.
Love it. Well, I got to do something to break up, and I love those answers because they're on point. Do you happen to have a drink with you, maybe?
I will in 1 second.
I love this. Uh-oh. Let's see what you got working here.
So this is a Christmas present for my wife. You can't see it, but that's a C for Carabase, and it's also on the glass as well. So,
well, I need you to raise a glass to yourself, for example, for getting yourself through 2020, and here's to 2021, because we're about to dig in. Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Good stuff. Here we go. I've got a picture that I have dug up from the archives that I think might be a little fun to take a look, and maybe you can walk us through. It might bring you down memory lane a little bit, but you touched on it very lightly in your intro, and we're going to get back to your Man Over Mind podcast as well. Brace yourself. Uh-oh.
Oh, man. Well, I see where you're going. I mean, I don't know if I see myself, but that looks like I feel like Uncle Rico, Napoleon Dynamite. Like sharing high school football pictures. That was, I think, my junior year, that photo. So I'm looking to see our quarterback my junior year. But I played halfback and outside linebacker. What about you?
I like it. Well, I was a cornerback. I was a little skinny guy who used to hit receivers. Yes, sir. Wow. A cornerback. So I got to pop some folks who went over the middle. And I will tell you that, I think that this is something that was a staple that might have been a turning point in your life, because you mentioned two things that I want to touch on. Number one is you're a recovering perfectionist. You're an alpha, right? And we start at 100. And then for everything that we feel like we might make a minor mistake or misjudgment in, we start to count ourselves down. And it's almost near impossible in our minds to get back to the 100. We feel like we have to do extra to try and do extra credit. So we're constantly doing this. You mentioned your knee injury. You not only tore your ACL once, but twice. And talk about the recovery getting into the third time, because a 3-time ACL tear, to me, and I've had a knee surgery, not on the ACL, only twice, thank the good Lord. I've had 6 reconstructive surgeries on my knee. Wow. Most of them meniscus, most of them MCL, PCL, 2 ACLs. So I feel where you're going with this. What was your mindset when you were going through PT to try and get back to full strength, knowing that your leg was atrophied? And how does, in a perfectionist mindset, how does that affect your PT?
That's a great question, man. And it's something I actually really haven't reflected on, but it's very interesting dichotomy in a sense, because you'd mentioned, as type A, perfectionists, we're always like, okay, well, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And I am saying how that's led me down this pipeline of chasing things, but let's not get it twisted. I mean, there's a good old catch-22, because it's also led to a lot of good in my life. I've always stayed in great shape. I've always, it's helped me be successful in my businesses and various other endeavors. So when I did PT, I was heartbroken at first. I got 3 different opinions. This was my very first ACL I did, because I just didn't want to admit it. It happened in our conference championship. And I actually went back in and tore it worse. I tore my LCL and meniscus, whatever. And I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to play moving forward, but I ended up finding it out. And so, but when I got the PT, I was like, I think it generally took at that point, it was like 9 months to rehab an ACL reconstruction. I did it in about 6 months, and I just hit it. I treated it like the ultimate. And so I did that, really disciplined with that. And my second one and third one, I also did as well. But the big takeaway for me with the ACL and what I learned from it was, while I did treat the therapy very important, and it's something that I did do, I didn't listen to I didn't listen to, here's where the other end of the catch-22 settles in, is that I was dragging my leg in a brace to the gym, working out, putting unnecessary pressure. I wasn't like squatting, but I was benching and doing all the things. And I could have just taken it a lot easier. I was going to parties. I shouldn't have been going to parties, and so I look back and reason why I thought I had to work out as well, as hard as I probably did, and I shouldn't have, and why I had to go to parties is because, yes, I could work hard at PT and that was fine, but I felt like I needed to sort of feel good about myself. And that's really, really melted into the journey of this Man Over Mind podcast, which is like, nah, man, you're good as you are. You don't need to work out to feel good about yourself. Working out does make you feel good, but rather than just lean on those things, look within to figure out what the hell is really going on and address that. So it's interesting looking back, man. I haven't really thought about that in a while.
Now we're going to do a lightning round. Just brace yourself because we're going to get crazy. Number one, your favorite body part to work out or train?
Legs.
Legs. Why legs? Why legs?
Because it's hard and it sucks. And also, you can't deny how, when someone wears long shorts and they have skinny legs, I'm all about symmetry, man.
No chicken legs on Joe. Very good. Sure. Second lightning round.
Also, by the way, you burn more muscle because there's more muscle down there. You burn more fat. So there's that.
There you go. Second thing, how many times have you thrown up or given it up on a leg day?
Well, I've given it up quite a bit. I've only threw up once, and that was before my very first workout. I ate a cupcake before my first high school workout. Bad decision.
Got it. Yep. Right there with you. Now, here's the big question. Have you measured your biceps? Because that's the true strength of a man, right? Do you know how many inches around in circumference your right bicep is?
Man, I couldn't tell you. I honestly, for a while, I didn't care as much, but now I'm starting to I'm like, no, I got to start working my biceps harder. So, but I haven't measured it.
All right, cool. Okay, so just
what's yours, by the way?
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give you a little show here.
Uh-oh.
We're looking at right around 16 inches right here. So
all right.
That's on a good day. I've gotten it to 18, but 16. Let's take a look. What you got, my friend? Just don't be embarrassed. You got me beat.
I don't know.
You got me beat. I'm loving it, dude. You're ultra lean. Now, when's the leanest you've ever been in your life?
I don't know. I've done a bunch of photo shoots over the years, but I didn't feel good when I was leanest. And I just did my body fat recently. I'm 9.6, and I feel good. So that I'll go with that. It's not to me about getting any lower. It's about the balance.
Yes, and that's what a lot of people struggle with. So, okay, we'll calm it down on the lightning round. I want to go back into asking you a very important question. What have been some of your biggest accomplishments in life and why? So if you can narrow it down to maybe two, and I'm going to let you think about it for a second. One of the things that I think it's important, especially as we go through life, you've been on this earth a while. You've seen a lot, you've been through a lot, and a lot of times as perfectionists, we fail or struggle to celebrate the wins. So if you can think about something that was super impressive on your heart that you can think back to, what would be the one or two moments that meant the most and that you need to celebrate right now?
That's a great question. Well, around 2016 or 15, I wrote a sort of future statement of what I wanted. And part of what I wrote was I wanted a beautiful wife who was fulfilling my needs as I fulfilled hers, who shared mutual interests, and have two healthy, beautiful kids. And so I found Mary Kate about 9 months later. And her and I got married, 2 or 3 years after that. And then we had our baby girl, Maeve, and we have a dog, Buddha. So I'm very, very fortunate to have hit those goals. Career-wise, honestly, I don't really know. I think for me, I would just have to say it's just finally like realizing and being okay with who I see in the mirror. Because for the longest time, it didn't matter what I did. I built $1 million gyms, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, traveled the world, did all these things, spoke, been on TV, didn't matter. I was never happy. you know, and in 2020 was the hardest year financially ever in my businesses, yet it was the best year of my life. And so that's what I would say I'm most proud of.
Oh man, Joe, you hit that thing out of the park. You know, you talked about financially. It doesn't matter how much we might take a hit. What matter is how we are feeling fulfilled. And I just have to echo that with you because, you know, as we're building relationships with people, you know, I heard this in just a recent conversation. You know, we can go 6 miles wide and maybe 16 inches deep with people and just keep everything surface level. Or we can create a 16-inch hole and go 6 miles deep. And when we start to go deep with people and make those connections, there isn't any amount of money in the world that can replace those relationships. And you met your wife, you have Maeve. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to in the future? So let's talk about 2021 for Joe. How does this look for this year, next year, and beyond? What do you picture or envision for your life and your families?
Well, I appreciate that question. I'd like to get back to it, but I actually, I don't, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a follow-up question because you, what I've been really impressed with you is like, because we've connected a lot through Clubhouse and I've seen you and I've been in a lot of your groups, you know, you're what I call a servant leader. You know, you serve people and I can tell you're genuine about it. And so I wonder like, because you had said like you can go wide or you can go deep. And for me, so much, I was just very shallow going deep. And finally, I've realized not to. But for you, what was the moment for you that changed that?
I see what you're doing here. Uh-huh.
Hey, man. Hey, brother, I'm impressed, man. I gotta, like I said, you know.
I love that question. And, you know, frankly, I've given that a lot of thought. And that's one of the things that I really like to ask because here's why. And I'll tell you the answer in just kind of how I feel from my heart, because I don't think this is an answer that you can think about and have it be a canned response, meaning this is the automatic response. One of the things that I realized really early on is the relationships that I had with people were very unfulfilling, which means I knew a lot of people, but I didn't know them well. And a lot of people knew me and they didn't know me at all. And
Mhm.
that's a really lonely feeling, you know, because we feel like we're on an island. We feel like we're looking around and we should have everything, every resource that's at our fingertips. Yet we're kind of, I don't want to say suffering in private and smiling in public, but you know, the one question that people would always ask me, which is a very canned question, it's, hey, how are you? Well, I'm good. How are you? And I think we've talked about this a little bit. And you know, that's like at a bank or a grocery store. When you do those things, you're not building relationships with the cashier in most cases, right? And so it really became that awakening where I started to look around and put my head above water and start to survey and say, wow, who can I really talk to about the things that I might be struggling with or maybe need some wisdom or guidance or mentorship? And frankly, it only came down to 1 or 2 people in my life. So that's really where it stemmed for me. And I had to take a long, hard look at that to say, hey, if I'm going to go somewhere in the future, I'm going to need to surround myself with the right tribe of men, married families, so my family can also help model what our family is going to be about and move forward in a very servant leadership place. Because Joe, we have 3 people in our lives as gentlemen. I always have that one mentor that I look up to, that I can go to for any advice, anything. I'm not embarrassed, I'm not humiliated, and I can just ask him the question flat out. I don't have to sugarcoat it, I don't have to beat around the bush, I don't have to word it correctly. I can ask him, he's going to give me an honest to God answer. And then there's that other person that I walk alongside with, which means we're kind of at the same level in life. And, you know, we're able to talk about things, but more importantly, we do learn from each other. And then there's that other person who's always watching. And I don't really know who that is right now in my life, but I'm pretty sure that somebody's probably watching. And it's very important that I conduct myself in a manner that anytime that I don't think is watching me is, I can honestly say that that's me authentically and genuinely. So I know that might be a long answer to your question, but man, in the future, you know, we want to be known for so many things, and this world has so many other things going on. It's very easy to get distracted by the things that don't matter, and it's hard to pay attention to the things that do. And I do believe that you're one of those people who has the right influence, not only in your community, but really just the movement that you've started with your podcast and also with your gym and your clients. And so I would say that would be what's important for me. And hopefully that gave you a little time to think about your answer, but really, truly, thank you for asking that. I would love to hear your response and just really what's on your heart.
Yeah, I mean, that was beautiful. I love that. As I'm always looking, it's interesting. Like I mentioned, the Catch-22, I developed a very successful workout program that was 30 minutes, hyper efficiency, right? And that's where it became my motto, hyper efficiency in all aspects of life. But the reality of it is there's more to life than being efficient. And I was treating relationships, I was treating my own fitness and everything else like hyper efficient. And really, when you're doing that, you're living in tomorrow and you're always working towards the next thing. I used to have conversations with people and I wasn't trying to be rude, but I was thinking about other, what's next and what else is going on. And you always end up with an empty cup. And so I strive to be better at being more present. And my meditation practice, I've been doing religiously for, just about every day, twice a day, first thing in the morning, no matter how early. And then, sometime midday or before bed. It's not perfect, but that's helped me become more present and journaling and stuff. But really, that's what I'd like to do. Part of the issues with when you struggle with confidence is you look at everybody as competition. And that's where, again, that's why maybe I'm very sensitive to when I see people like yourself who are authentically serving. And I'm like, man, that's admirable. That's what I got to do. I want to do more of that. That's what I want, because you think that people have to get you. You think you can't trust people. You think it has to be you or them, not us together, and you're always looking to your side. You're looking back rather than just look forward and be where you're at in that moment. So, to answer your question, overall as a human being, that's what I'm trying to work on. That's not what I'm trying to work on. That is what I'm working on, and I'm getting better with it. In terms of being a professional, I've been in the gym industry for a very long time as an owner. It's a very tough business, and I wouldn't blink my eyes at working 80 hours a week. Before I was married, but especially before having a baby. But now when I have my baby girl, I can't be burnt out with energy. And really what fulfills me now is helping other men go through their hero's journey, giving them the wisdom that I've learned from mine, being just that one step ahead of them, be like, hey, I got you, man, helping them up to that next ledge and be like, no, it's okay. That challenge is good. Let's look inside. Let's get ourselves mentally and physically fit and do this thing in a way that we didn't know existed. And so that's really what fires me up and what I want to do more of moving forward.
Man, what an amazing response. And Joe, I just want to pause and reflect because, I'm seeing a lot of these comments flying through here. You're touching some people that, really.
What a cool app. This is awesome, by the way. Thank you for introducing me to this. Yeah. Really awesome.
You're building a legacy here, and you're seeing a lot of these comments posting up, and these are people who really have a genuine connection either to myself or you. Some of these people we don't even know, which is great. And that just goes to show me that we can have an intimate, private conversation here publicly and be able to pour out really what's on our mind and on our heart. And, this is what James says, can't see right in front of you with your eyes, always in the rear view mirror. And man, isn't that so true, James? We have 20/20 hindsight vision. And, it's scary to think about our future, Joe. We don't know what it holds. And as a protector and a provider for our families and other people in our lives, it's a scary thing because we don't know what it holds. And therefore, that uncertainty creates a little anxiousness, a little tightness in our chest. And yet, I feel in your voice, in the way that you spoke about that, I feel your confidence, but I also feel your faith. And that's something that's hard to find these days. Hope and faith in the future is something that I do believe is created mentally. And I also think it's lived out publicly by our actions. When you talked about waking up every morning and pretty much doing that routine, you know what? It's okay to miss a day. Not everything's perfect. If we were perfect, we wouldn't be having struggles in our lives. And so somebody once told me, they said, never miss a day. Well, I'm sorry, never miss 2 days in a row. It's okay to miss a day, but never miss 2 in a row. And so you get right back on the horse and you keep moving along and keep chugging ahead. So with that, I do. I cannot believe this time went by so fast. Honestly, I was like, dude, I know we've got more time than this. And so we like to keep it light and tight at right around the 45-minute mark. We like to do long form as opposed to short form in just 5-minute spurts. I'd really like to just ask you in closing, what would be the thing that you really, if let's just say looking back, you're 85 years old, you've got grandkids, your wife of however many years that will be, she's right by your side. You got to grow old together with her. You've got to see your kids grow up. You've gotten to see your kids become responsible human beings and adults, and therefore they are now equipping their kids, your grandkids. What would you want them to say about you in your legacy and what you taught them?
Well, man, I love that question because that's something having a daughter made me think a lot about is, I can't afford to be in fear, like, no, that's not fair to her. And I think about this often, and she motivates me in these amazing ways. Cause I say to myself, I want her to say my dad was somebody who fought for what he believed in. He chased his passion and he helped as many people as he could. And if I do that, not only will that lead to financial success that could provide for my family, it's also going to show her that light. And I want her to build off of that and live this greater legacy than me. And I think if I can do that, then man, my life's complete.
Man, you just got a standing ovation. This is one of James's favorite podcasts, and he's a gentleman that I've known for almost 30 years, and he's one of the reasons why I got into fitness. And so it's funny. We didn't advertise this thing. We wanted just to have an impromptu conversation. We wanted to have a drink. So first of all, cheers to you, my friend. Enjoy that. And oh, man, that's good. Joe, I first of all wanted to touch on your Instagram because I think you're going to have some people start to follow you in your journey. Your best Instagram, your plug is Joe Carabase, correct?
Yeah, that's JoeCara, B as in boy, A, S as in Sam, E as in Edwards.
Perfect. So Joe Carabase, Instagram, all lowercase and no underscores. Your podcast, where can they find Man Over Mind?
It's on basically every platform, the Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts. If all else fails, you can just go to the website, www.bemanovermind.com, and that will direct you everywhere. And I was told not to give away this ebook that I gave away because it was too much information, but it was something that I wanted to give to people, and it would really help you. And you could find that on my homepage as well.
Oh, man, you're mighty generous, my friend. And that's bemanovermind.com. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, I love it, dude. I love it. And so with that, I would like to close. And first of all, thank you. I highly respect and appreciate what you're doing. You're a gentleman who I, greatly admire for the things that we've had conversations about. We've never met in person, but I know that we will. And I think there's a reason why we crossed paths, and just absolutely loved everything you had to say, and hope to have you back on this very soon.
I would love it, man. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and James, everybody listening, I appreciate y'all. And man, keep doing what you're doing, Matt. You're doing something special on Clubhouse and everywhere else, but especially that's where I see you the most. So many thanks to you, man. And I really look forward to the future.
I'm looking forward to it, and I think we have great things to come. So thank you being a visionary. Joe Carabase, my friends. And until then, we will get a chance to give you our closing thoughts. And I do believe that as we progress through life, we're going to lock arms with great gentlemen like Joe. We're going to continue to have these. If you liked it, hit the like, subscribe. We want to make sure and support Joe if he's given free audiobook. www.bemanovermind.com.
Yeah, man.
Earlier that way.
Hey, it's all good. It's all good.
Well, Joe, thanks for your time, and we'll look forward to catching up. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe.